Tovi's shining moment has come. Just this fight scene alone, this movie cannot be underestimated. The story is set in Barcelona. The male protagonist named Mac is a top fighter of the local gang. Recently, their gang has been busy campaigning for elections because the biennial secret council is about to be held. This council will elect the leader of all local gangs. The tycoon's son named Alu is active in killing everywhere. He used money to bribe other gangs to vote for his side, ensuring he would sit in the rotating leader position. As the crown prince's bodyguard, Mac is always by his side. Alu has made an agreement with the Colombia people. As long as he receives the money, the other side will cast an extra vote for him. The two sides toasted what looked like a very happy transaction. But when the Colombian opened the bag, inside was his son's head. As soon as he heard an unusual noise upstairs, Mac immediately shot down all the surrounding juniors in one breath. He is the adopted son of Tycoon Lukaku. Alu is nominally his brother, but Mac knows absolutely nothing about today's cold-blooded plan. He only thought he came to protect his brother's safety, while Alu's real goal was to destroy the Colombia gang. Once their plan is successful, they can step on their opponents to climb to a higher position, becoming the undisputed kings of Barcelona's underworld. At that time, the small gangs around could only obediently vote for him in order to survive. This act of beheading is 100 times more cruel than using money as a bribe. The two men rushed into the Colombian factory and massacred guards and workers without discrimination. In Alu's eyes, the lives of these people are just a ladder for him to reach the top. When he struck, he was coldly calm without a ripple of emotion. The hook was his most loyal spearhead. There could only be a little rain of bullets on every moving figure, until all the resistors fell, but Alu still did not stop. He pointed his gun at the workers who had long since surrendered, leaving no survivors, including the leader of the Colombia gang who had mixed into the crowd. But Alu still kept a calm face after killing so many people. For the first time he felt strange. This also completely reinforced his previous decision to wash his hands of the sword and return to being a normal person. This time, Alu did not stop him anymore. The two quietly hugged each other in the sea of blood and body. With this silent embrace, they ended more than 10 years of brothers struggling side by side in the streets. However, the long-awaited peaceful days did not come. What came was a devastating disaster. Not long after, boss Lukaku rushed over. Seeing the mess caused by his son, he became angry. A small problem that could have been solved by spending just a little money ended up costing the lives of so many people. If everything is revealed, not only will they not be able to run for office, but they will also be hunted down by the secret council, at which point everyone will have to join him. Lukaku was extremely agitated and even somewhat hated his son for not being human. And this reproach was like a separate stick, that is, it burned away the resentment that had accumulated for a long time in Alu's heart. He is the crown prince, but his father favors his adopted son Magia and adopted son Mark, instead sending him to Japan to suffer. Now he has thought clearly, so what if they grew up together? Whoever threatens his position, he will kill that person, because the word has already been said. Clearly prepared to kill his father, Mark now arrived home. Before that, he promised his son that after washing his hands and putting aside his sword, he would take him out of here. Since his wife passed away, he has been waiting for 3 years. He gave the key to the nanny and asked her to return it to the homeowner. Unexpectedly, the nanny had just turned her back and used the house key in exchange for a large amount of money. And Mark also quickly heard the noise outside the door. He told his son to quickly hide while he rushed forward to lock the door. No need to guess to know that these people are definitely Alu's reason to come to maintain his position as boss. He had to ruthlessly eliminate those who opposed him. Mark was very strong and could be said to be at his peak. Many swordsmen with such weapons could not even approach him, but no matter how strong they were, what was the use? In the face of fire, he was completely unable to fight back, watching his son being killed in front of him. No father could endure such pain before leaving. The assassin directly blew up the whole house to destroy the evidence. But they did not know that Mark was still alive. It was Magia who saved him from the fire. 2 years have passed and the day of the election of the secret council is approaching. During these 2 years, hatred became Mark's only source of fuel, and he trained himself day and night without stopping. Every punch and knife thrust carries a bone-deep hatred for Alu. He is waiting for an opportunity. A chance to send Alu to hell. Speaking of which, we need to transfer Mr. Kin to another male protagonist, Leo. He is a university student, but to support his family, he is forced to hide from his mother and work as an errand boy for a local gang selling flour. This part-time job has a small income but is also extremely dangerous. Father passed away early, grandfather was old and weak. His younger brother was still young, his mother was completely unable to work. The burden of the whole family fell heavily on his young shoulders. Leo works very hard, but selling flour on another gang's territory is a big no-no. So in the evening when he finished his work and was about to go home, he was suddenly stopped by 2 strong men. They not only beat Leo but also wanted to take away the money from selling his flour. Leo tried to be as gentle as possible. This is 1 week's living expenses for your whole family. If it were taken away from you, your family would go hungry. Right at the moment of despair, a figure stepped out of the darkness. It was Mark who saved Leo to thank him for saving his life. Leo followed Mark all the way to the front door of an old garage. Mark saw that he was both stubborn and lonely. Finally, he softened and pulled him into the garage and helped him treat the wound on his head. Mark looked very calm, but actually his insides were stirred up. If his son was still alive, he would have grown as tall as this. On the other side, Alu was also actively preparing. Seeing that the day of the council election was approaching, this time he did not appear personally but had to have his subordinates raid a casino controlled by an Asian gang. These people acted extremely fiercely, like a ghost had possessed them, holding all the gamblers hostage. A person behind the legendary Sang's father must be revealed. What no one expected was that Sang's father, the person who has controlled the Asian gang for many years, is a woman. This made Finito extremely surprised, but surprise is surprise and the main thing still needs to be done. The subordinate connected a video call with Alu. He had not been seen in Barcelona for 2 years. And now coming to Sang's father, there is no doubt that he wants her to vote for him in the election. Sang's father sarcastically told Alu that he was still hiding like a dirty rat and did not dare to appear in person. Alu replied that he was not hiding but was just enjoying relaxing time with his family. Sang's father said she respected Alu's father because he was a good person, but she would never support Alu and told him not to dream. Since there could be no agreement, Alu was too lazy to waste any more words. As for those who disobey, Alu will never let them survive. And Finito is also very willing to replace his boss and send competitors who don't know that to heaven. In the following days, Mark was often with Leo. Leo helped him adjust the guitar his son left behind. The relationship between the two people grew closer. Seeing Mark's skills, Leo proactively asked him to teach him some self-defense techniques. Mark also didn't refuse to take him to practice punching wooden piles with sandbags, even teaching him his own unique techniques. For 2 years now, Leo has been the only person who makes him feel relaxed. Before saying goodbye to Leo, write down your contact information on a piece of paper and give it to Mark in the hope that we can meet again in the future. This action made Mark feel lost. His son had always liked to do the same. And on the other side, Alu's plan is still underway. This time he switched targets to the Russian gang. He was preparing to send people to the enemy's area to deliberately cause friction. As long as the Russians dared to take action, he would have an excuse to declare a full-scale war. Even the secret council could not refute it, just like the trick used before against the Colombians. As long as you keep an eye on the Russian gang, your path to running for power will no longer be a problem. However, what no one expected was that the job that Alu assigned to his subordinate Harrow would fall on Leo's head. It turned out that the goods that Leo sold were always taken from Harrow. This time Harrow called because he wanted to go to the Russian seller's area. To put it bluntly, he wanted to take advantage of Leo. Leo directly hung up and refused to be this pawn, which made Harrow angry. So that night, he led someone to block Leo's way. Leo felt bad and turned around and ran away. He sped on the balance bike, gliding through the noisy crowd and then rushing down the slope all at once. It seemed like he was about to escape but was stopped by Harrow from the other side. Harrow never showed mercy towards his subordinates who intended to resist. To teach Leo a lesson, he used the car door to firmly clamp Leo's hand. He wanted Leo to know that only by learning to obey could he survive. The next day his eyes were cleaning his son's guitar. Suddenly I heard a knock on the door. Opening the door was a girl. The girl was Leo's girlfriend. Because Leo hadn't appeared for a few days, she wanted to ask if he was here. Seeing his silent eyes, she said nothing. If you see Leo, tell him to leave a message for me. After saying that, send the balance bike and turn around and leave. Feeling uneasy in his heart, he still sent a message to Leo. The two met at an old church on the outskirts of the city. Leo's hand was seriously injured. His eyes reminded him that he should go to the hospital. If there were any sequelae, it would cause pain. Leo firmly refused to go to the hospital because he was afraid that if he did, they would call his mother. Something he didn't want to happen to avoid conflict with her. Hearing him say that, he had to take out his phone to make a call. Maggia soon arrived. To be honest, besides her, I couldn't think of anyone else to ask for help. As soon as Maggia arrived, he seemed annoyed. The council election was coming up and he was acting for someone unrelated. I really don't know what he thinks anymore, but he's angry that Maggia still chose to help Leo. She understood Mag's reason for helping Leo, and also understood his longing for his son to seek justice for Leo. Mag turned around and went to the nightclub where Harrow often went. Harrow didn't know him at all. Waiting until Harrow was about to leave the bathroom, Mag didn't say a word and then launched a combo attack. The juniors outside heard the movement and immediately surrounded them. One of them recognized Mag, who was afraid and turned around to run away from the crowd. But the remaining soldiers, not knowing that the sky was high and the ground was thick, rushed towards Mag, and as a result, they were all knocked to the ground by Mag's 3 moves and 5 moves. During this process, Mag learned that Harrow was Alu's subordinate. He originally intended to forgive him, but the name Alu was like a match that immediately burned all the anger in his heart. So he used the same tricks that Harrow used on Leo to return him to his original state. After finishing the fight, she returned to Maggia, who had finished bandaging Leo's wound. That boy was curled up sleeping soundly in the living room. In the practice room, the sound of punches and kicks and clashes continued. The two brothers were outside practicing martial arts, but their minds were focused on the news they had just received. Maggia began to blame Mag for this revenge they had been preparing for 2 years. Just wait until the council election to act if the plan fails because of a stranger. Let Alu smoothly sit in the position of power. At that time, no matter how big the world is, I'm afraid there will be no more room for them. They can only hide and hide like mice. Any Mag could be unclear about this. He had decided in his heart to wait until arrangements were made for Leo to focus all his attention on the final plan. But he completely did not expect that the wind at the nightclub created a bigger wave. Harrow told Finito everything that happened at the nightclub. The name had the word Mac and one person could easily defeat all of them. The more Finito thought about it, the more wrong he felt. Hearing this name, Finito used a towel to cover his mouth and his eyes flashed with meaning. That year, Alu had to kill Mac, but now Mac is still alive. Before he killed Mac again, no one was allowed to reveal this information. And the dead are the ones who know how to keep the most secrets, so Harrow's seductions gradually stopped. Finito let go, his eyes gradually became cold. At this time Mac was taking Leo home. On the way, he discovered something unusual. At a glance, he realized that the person in the car parked not far away was watching. He told Leo to wait while he walked towards that person. While looking at the other person's chat log, he was clearly watching. Mac was extremely cautious, but the sound of cartoons coming from inside the house caught Leo completely off guard. He couldn't help but push the door open. It was true that the TV was showing cartoons, but right now his younger brother was lying in a pool of blood and had stopped breathing. His grandfather, who was nearby, was also killed. Finito and his subordinates walked out from the side, clearly waiting for him. The enemy's eyes were bloodshot when they met. His son had died at the enemy's hands. He wished he could rip off this bastard's flesh. But his anger made him vulnerable and Finito's dagger stabbed him hard in the stomach. Seeing the dire situation, Leo picked up the pistol on the ground and fired a magazine at Finito. Although he couldn't defeat that bastard, he was able to repel Finito and save Mac. That day he became an orphan. All his relatives passed away before his eyes in the most tragic way. This pain was too heavy for a university student. In the evening, Magia helped Mac deal with his wound. Today's lies were all caused by Mac's stubbornness. If he hadn't insisted on helping Leo, they wouldn't have been exposed. But now it's too late to say these things. The opponent has already prepared to sneak attack. It won't be so easy anymore. Mac didn't want to worry too much anymore, so he shaved his long hair. Because the storm is about to come, you should face it frankly. Not long after Magia tracked Finito's phone, she discovered that Alu had issued a death order, asking Finito to destroy Mac at all costs and that the dispatched vanguard had now rushed towards his garage. Hearing this news, Mac did not panic at all, so when the first group of assassins entered the garage, they couldn't see where he was at all. He was like a ghost gliding in the darkness. Every time he appeared, he was accompanied by a dull sound and a falling figure. He moved incredibly fast. In just one eye, he defeated 4 to 5 people. As soon as he finished defeating one wave of people, another wave immediately rushed in. Picking up the pair of force pliers next to him, a little rage began in his heart. He no longer dodged but began to confront the opponent directly. Pouring all the hatred into every swing, the yellow garage echoed with terrifying collisions and short, sharp screams. He was like a completely agitated beast, calculating all the debts he had owed over the years to these henchmen. When the last person collapsed, the only thing left in the garage was the strong smell of blood on Mac's calm face. He looked at the scene before him, clearly understanding that this place was completely exposed and could no longer stay. The days of passively waiting had to end. On Magia's message, she discovered that Alu had a nightclub called Seven Rains Night that was a nest of black money. Inside he kept more than 70 million in cash, all of which he was preparing to use for his election campaign. If he could destroy it, it would mean cutting off one of Alu's arms, which would definitely make him crazy. This was a good idea. Mac turned the steering wheel and went straight to the target. In front of the nightclub on Seven Rains Night, Mac stopped the car. He decisively and neatly dealt with the 2 guards. He walked in, Magia's voice clear and calm in his hand. She hacked into the nightclub's surveillance camera system, providing enemy coordinates to Mac in real time. The 2 of them coordinated well, and the next cleaning job took place as efficiently as a carefully choreographed dance of death. 2 years of hiding and practicing carefully made every attack Mac accurately aimed at the weak points without a single unnecessary move. He was like a tiger going down the mountain, moving forward in a straight line, without much effort, defeating everyone. Unable to control the accountant who was trying to escape, he hung a phone around his neck and asked the accountant to leave a message to Alu, head or heart. The subordinates outside are preparing to transfer this money to another place. Unexpectedly, Mac's reaction was even faster. He defeated the group of juniors who blocked the money and forced the survivor to put all the money in the bag into his cart. Mac drove back to their base. In the recent battle, his leg was unfortunately injured. Because the current situation was very urgent, he did not want to inject anesthetic because he was afraid that the enemy would not be able to resist. Leo thought he was a fool. Without hesitation he took the anesthetic needle and stabbed it into the muscle next to his wound. Soon he fell into a deep sleep. Such a large amount of money was stolen. As expected, it made Alu angry. He hurried back to Barcelona, intending to personally meet his old brother. Alu met the accountant. The huge amount of cash was robbed. He was already crazy, hearing the deadly question head or heart relayed by the accountant. The thread of reason in his head cracked and broke completely. In extreme rage, he pulled out his dagger and personally killed the unlucky guy in front of him. Magia had just used the technique to lock Finito's location when he was seen by Leo next to him. The image of his family being massacred filled his mind with the idea of revenge against this young man. He took advantage of Magia's sleep while mixing the gun and car keys on the table. He alone went to the location displayed on the computer. He loved poetry and thought that as long as he had a gun in his hand, he could end the pain himself. But not knowing that this reckless complicity will pull everyone into a more dangerous situation. Finito grabbed Leo and beat him up. He didn't care if Leo was young or not. Leo had absolutely no ability to fight back and was beaten all over his body. The illusion of revenge also disappeared. At this moment Magia woke up. She saw clear location information on the screen. Then she looked to the side and saw that the weapon and car keys were gone. Her heart immediately tightened. Mag was still sleeping because the T-drug hadn't worn off yet. It could only be Leo. She frantically wiped towards the marker while continuously calling Leo, but there was only a hopeless busy sound in the receiver, and at this time Leo was being held at gunpoint by Finito. In a fleeting moment, Magia finally arrived in time. She drove straight over. She pulled her dizzy head and got out of the car, picked up the gun dropped by Finito but did not knock Finito down, but took the opportunity to help Leo who was having trouble getting up and drove away from the scene. On the way, she worriedly called Mag. But Magjia couldn't call her phone, and the tea medicine hadn't worn off yet. In a desperate situation, Magjia had to take Leo to the nearest hospital. But without knowing that one of Finito's subordinates had also followed here, Leo was seriously injured but Mag's phone was continuously unreachable. Reluctantly, she had to leave a message telling the entire story, including the hospital location. But she did not realize that at this time Finito had come to this hospital, at the same time that the #1 fighter under Alu was Doan. Like Vietnam's superior anti-reconnaissance ability, it silently found the brothers' hiding place. The shrill alarm echoing throughout the mansion also woke up Mag, who was sleeping soundly, in the corner of the hallway where the two people used to know each other best. Finally meeting again after 2 years of separation, they grew up together since childhood and are both Lukaful's most effective subordinates. If Mai hadn't washed his hands of his sword, he would have been a boss and Doan would have been his subordinate. But now they have become opposing enemies, now everything they say is meaningless, since they have chosen to follow Alu, they must do what a subordinate should do. Both of them put down their guns, intending to determine the winner or loser barehanded, but this battle was destined to be unfair. The bullet wound in Mag's leg severely slowed his movements. After a few rounds, he was completely overwhelmed by Doan and continuously pushed back. They hit him with so many heavy punches that it was almost difficult to stand. When he was about to lose the ability to fight, Mag began to show weakness. However, Doan did not know that Mag's previous weakness was waiting for him to reveal Alu's location. Then everything that needed to be known was known and it was time to send him away, following the stab that punctured his aorta. His life also ended here. At this time, Alu brought a large group of subordinates and had already arrived at the election venue. He has carefully prepared this time, who will become the new ruler of the entire underworld. But as soon as he entered the elevator, the phone that Mag left for him rang again. Without thinking, he knew that Doan had not killed Mag. Money that cannot be recovered means that today's election will not be easy. The outcome of this chess game was decided 2 years ago. When he sent someone to kill Mag's son, the two brothers were destined to have an implacable battle. Before going to the secret council, Mag went to the hospital according to Magia's message. He looked at Leo once. He didn't know if he could come back alive or not. This parting could very well be forever. He drove to the place where the secret council was held. On the way, he stopped gods from killing gods and stopped Buddha from killing Buddha. It was as if a god had entered his body. Everyone who stood in his way became a ghost under his blade. Turning into a speck of dust in this countless world, this very day he must reclaim all debts. All the injustice and hatred suffered 2 years ago must be returned to Alu. He grabbed the gun of a junior and unceremoniously fired bullets at them. From the moment they became Alu's accomplices, today's outcome was determined. But facing a close brother who had fought side by side for many years was ahead of him. Rafa threw away the weapon in his hand and did not open fire on this old friend. But at this time, a junior suddenly pulled the grenade pin. Mac immediately hid behind Rafa so he could help him bear all the threats caused by the explosion. He had not yet had his revenge and could not die when Mac walked into the council hall alone and saw Alu already waiting there. Obviously he also understood that this battle was inevitable, so he prepared everything just waiting for Mac to arrive. Having come to this step, talking too much is meaningless, so let's use the most direct way a man can do to end all these resentments. The two of them raised their knives at the same time, the sound of metal and crunching echoing throughout the hall. Both of them used all their strength, each knife was aimed at a dangerous place, wishing they could immediately cut the other down to the ground. By mistake, Alu got a cut on her thigh, and then he kicked her down from the high platform. But this wound was nothing to Mac, on the contrary, it completely aroused his will to fight. I thought Mac would be the final winner but unexpectedly Alu suddenly called Finito out. And Finito was holding Magia's neck, seeing his sister fall into the hands of the enemy. Mac had to give up his stubborn resistance and endure Alu's raining punches, right when Mac was about to be overwhelmed by despair. Magia suddenly stuck her hand at Finito and took the opportunity to grab his weapon. The two sides immediately exchanged gunfire, but a magazine of bullets was shot and none of them was the target. Magia quickly circled to the side. With a strong touch, Finito rushed from the second floor to the ground. It was unbelievable that after falling from such a height, Finito quickly stood up. Alu handed Mac to Finito and told him to complete the missing mission from 2 years ago. As for me, I pulled Magia aside, forcing her to witness Mac's execution with her own eyes. But unexpectedly, at the last minute, Mac exploded with power and punched Finito, killing him on the spot. Magia kicked away Alu's lighter and stood up, launching a storm-like attack on him. Seeing this, Mac also participated in the battle to avenge his son's death and to avenge his adoptive father. They had been patient for 2 years, every day and night for those 2 years, they waited for this moment. Vowing to send the devil who killed his brother's father to hell, now the anger that has accumulated for 2 years has finally completely exploded. The two of them pulled out their knives at the same time, using the most radical way to deal with the devil, the moment Alu fell. This blood feud was finally put to rest, they could finally breathe freely and start a new life. At the end of the story, they took Leo from the hospital and drove a rickshaw full of cash, planning to find a quiet place to start their new journey. X-Team 2021 is not only a powerful action movie, but also delves deep into the core of revenge, loyalty, love, and humanity. The film brings both a sense of pleasure and depth, both a visual treat and a contemplation, a rare work that is worth recommending.